Hey, Francine. Thank you so much
Hello,
for being a
Claire.
guest on our podcast.
Really great to be here. Thanks for asking me.
It's so good to see you again. I think the last time I saw you must have been before COVID, right?
Absolutely. So, yes, a very, very busy time. And then I ended up taking some time off. I took advantage of business slowing down at that time to pause.
How was that? Because when I knew you, you were like go, go, go all the time, a million things. It feels like it must have been actually a positive thing for you.
Uh, yeah, I have to say that whilst COVID obviously is a tragedy for the world, I think that for many people, being forced to pause was
Mm,
a good thing because life was just getting faster and faster and faster. And I know, as an entrepreneur, I had so many opportunities and things happening and I was jumping on all of them. And so when everything slowed down and people were in that fearful stage of not wanting to spend money, etc., I took the opportunity just to take a step back and reassess my business and my life, because I've got a 4-year-old as well. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. What came from the whole thing? Like when you had time to sit and assess? Because I had to do the same thing also, and I kind of came up with a whole new direction for my business and a whole new service that I wanted to put out. Did something change for you that you thought about over COVID?
just about how I do business, because obviously with entrepreneurs and setting up online, you have that whole that tech challenge of getting all the tech into place, which is really challenging for most people. And then you're trying to add services and launching and relaunching and FOMO and all these sort of things. And what I talk to people about and teach people about is running your own race. However, I was starting to get caught up in in the competition. And so then to be able to pause, back off and say, this is my business. How do I want to run my life? Do I want to be working every single moment because I am an online, coach, or do I want to have the self-care, etc., that I talk about and I teach my clients in my life? And so to put those things back into my life has been fantastic, and make sure that I then guard them jealously so that I
Mm.
can be my best.
I love that. And you're already looking so much better. I remember I mean, your hair is gorgeous now. You've had what you call your COVID hair. But yeah, I mean, you just seem a lot happier, a lot less stressed. It's awesome to see you this way because I know, like, when you're running a business, you have a kid, there's like a million things that you have to do. And also, you're coaching. So you have
Yep.
to support all of these people at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, look, absolutely. And the thing is, and this is the one thing that I work with my clients on, is looking at, people call it your genius zone, etc. But there's the
Mm,
reality is there's stuff that you're good at, and there's stuff that is just painful for you to do. So for the things that are painful for you to do, outsource. And so with that, and really making sure that I am doing that,
mm.
because it is difficult to find the right people, as you know. And so with that, it can end up the challenging stuff can end up back on your plate again and
Mm.
trying to do it all. But things like the financials and the bookkeeper, etc., to make sure that that was set up properly and then outsourced, because I just don't want to deal with that. I'm more of a people person than a bean counter.
Yeah, you're right. It's super important to outsource the stuff that you don't like. So you're not like dreading stuff in your business every day. Like that's how I felt when I was doing social media. Social media for me is like I can't do it. And I just dread it so much that I have to outsource it. Otherwise, it's not going to get done.
Yeah. And I agree with you. And there's me trying to think that I have to be the one who comes up with the plan, who comes up with this and comes
Mhm.
up with that. And also, what I've had to do is just know that 70% is good enough,
Mm.
because to get stuck in the procrastination that comes around being a perfectionist and trying to get everything done. Uh, as a saying that says, money like speed. So get it out there, get it happening, and then you can start tweaking and making it better and improving and building on it. But just get it out there.
I like that. Money likes speed. So
Yeah.
just move quickly, move fast, or at least move faster. I mean, obviously you can't move too fast or you make bad decisions. But I do agree, like Seth Godin talks about the importance of just shipping it. That's his word, like just ship it, and how like you always have to be just like shipping your work all the time and not getting stuck in that place of trying to make it perfect. Like you said, I think we're all recovering perfectionists a little bit. I know I am for sure. Were you a perfectionist?
Yeah, and it was paralyzing at one point. One of my favorite sayings is "Do it for the experience." Because if we're so focused on getting it right, we may never launch, we may never get it out there. What are people going to think of me, etc. So if we're all focused on that, but it's about turning your stumbling blocks into your stepping stones. It's failing forward. It's get it out there and then tweak. And you know this because when both you and I started working together, I remember how amazing you were for me, because I was launching and I was putting money at adverts, etc., and nothing was happening. And then we just tweaked, and then suddenly, boom. And that was absolutely amazing. But if I hadn't first put those adverts on and continued running them and then tweaked them until I got my messaging right, then I wouldn't be anywhere today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Taking action, even if you don't know exactly what the right action is, just taking action is so powerful. Because I think, I mean, I always believe in like the universe, but I feel like the universe rewards people who are passionate about their goals, who take action, who put their stuff out there, even if it's not perfect. I feel like the more you put out, the more you get back in a lot of ways. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
good that you worked at it for so long, and you pushed and you pushed and you believed that you could do it even though you didn't have success in the beginning.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember, I remember when I did this launch and I did this 5-day goal getter challenge. I remember this, and it was so good. I had over 600 people go through the program, and everyone was just raving about it. They thought it was the best thing ever. And so I knew that this was going to be a $40,000 weekend. It was just going to be huge. I was going to, go off, jet off on holiday somewhere. And of course, I opened to crickets. Not one person bought my product. And the reason why, again, it's about the learning and the tweaking, etc., is because I gave them too much. I gave them a full course as a 5-day challenge. So these people were loving it. It was so much, it was so deep and profound, etc. But they didn't get through the work to then think I was amazing and buy my product at the end of it. So whilst I was a success, uh, gave value, etc., it didn't work. So then, since then, it's been packaged into a program, and the program itself is successul. So again, I just took what works, put it into a different format, and now it's working really well. It's now a 5-week program. So yeah, exactly. So it's about, you try something, you have the result, you say, okay, and then you do something else. And it's, and as an entrepreneur, as you know, it's about just backing yourself. So important to just take the learnings, take the gold, and then just get up, brush yourself off, and try again.
Yeah, yeah, and to not take it personally also, because I know people who have had those launches and they fail and they take it so hard and they're like, oh, what do I do wrong? People don't like me. I'm getting the wrong people. Like they internalize that failure and turn it into like a huge issue when really it's just a learning experience. Like you said, you find out what doesn't work, you fix it, you make it work. It's all a process. And if you didn't have that failure of a launch, then you wouldn't have learned this thing that works now.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's Jeff Walker, who's like the king of launches,
Mm,
and he actually says it is about your first launch, your seed launch is the actual reason behind doing it is to launch. So
mm.
the goal is to launch. It's not to make $1 million, etc. It is to launch and have that experience. And then from there, you then look at what worked, what didn't work. You congratulate yourself for actually launching, and then you do it again, and then you do it again. And each time you learn more, you tweak the messaging, the marketing, etc., until you get to this product that works for you. Like he started with 6 people on who he basically cajoled into coming in and doing his seed launch, and he's now doing multi-million-dollar launches every time.
Yeah,
So
that is true. You have to commit to just the process. It's just a
yeah,
process of launching. It's a process of getting better at marketing, getting better at refining your message and putting it out there. And if you quit too early, you'll never get that learning. You'll never get better. You'll just stay stuck. And that's really frustrating for me to see, like when people just stay stuck and they're too afraid to launch, they're too afraid to fail. They're too afraid to have the rejection and the disappointment that they never really back themselves fully and put themselves out there.
yeah, yeah. And that's just it, because we're basically meaning making machines. And so it's whatever meaning that we put on something. So a launch is just a launch, and then you take the gold, you move on.
Mm,
However, if the launch means that you're good at business to you, or it means that you're a failure, then suddenly there's all that fear that goes around the actual act of launching. Which may stop you from launching, which may, make you feel like a failure, etc., rather than just saying, okay, what do I need to do differently, and getting logical about it. A lot of people end up just going internally and just going, obviously this is not for me. Fixed mindset, I'm not good enough. Obviously it's only people who do launches that can launch, etc. So yeah.
yeah, I see that the fear of rejection and the fear of failure really stopping so many people. Is that something that you teach about? Do you coach people on how to get over that? Because you've done it yourself like quite a bit now. You know a lot about what it takes to just push through and put yourself out there.
100%. And it's part of what I do, because I work with entrepreneurs as well as just business leaders. And the big thing is to ensure that people are being the person who does the stuff to then
Mm,
have the results, rather than being so focused on the results. When this launch is a success, then I'll be able to do the things that I want to do, and then I'll feel happy. So
mm,
it's about just being the person who does the daily disciplines and has the experience. Because when you take away the need to succeed, um, then you are able to enjoy the journey,
mm.
and rather than focusing on the destination. And it's the fear of the future that gets people stuck. So just be present, do the next indicated thing, and then have that experience, learn from it, take what you learn, put it in, move forward.
That's really good advice. Yeah, it is. It's always fears that keep people stuck. And like you said, it's all about enjoying the journey. If you can start to enjoy the journey and not care so much about the destination or how long it's going to take for you to get there, then you really start, you know, becoming part of the process. You're able to create so much more when you live in that present moment and you don't worry about the future and what people think about you and if you're going to be good enough and all of those fears that
Yeah,
keep us stuck in our heads.
yeah.
I
That's all
see,
that.
sorry, I was just going to say, I see on the background behind you, it says beat procrastination. What is it? What does it say?
Oh, this is yeah. So this is the circuit breaker program that we've just launched, and this is helping people to beat procrastination and break the negative feedback loop. Because what happens is most people set goals out of a sense of lack. and it's also just an idea. So most people set the same goals every single year, and it is, they want to lose weight, they want to be taller, they want to have money, etc. And they do it because, if it's lose weight, it's because they're trying to their favorite pair of jeans and they don't fit, and I need to lose weight. But they don't really look at why and what is that going to give them. And if they actually lose weight, what does that mean that they're going to achieve, and what will that stop them from doing? So most people actually kick their goals to the curb by the first 2 weeks of the new year, or within setting the goal, because something else will come up for them, because there's no emotional attachment to it. They don't have a real why there, and they're not taking into account their core personality, which is, their feelings, their limiting beliefs, their experiences, all these things that are going to stop them from actually achieving that goal. None of that, their internal programming, none of that's taken into account. All they look at is the story that they tell themselves. I need to be skinny. I'm going to set a goal. I'm going to lose weight in 3 weeks' time. And they start, and then they will just kick it to the curb. And then what happens is the negative feedback loop happens, because you start something, you don't commit to it fully, you don't get the results, it doesn't work, kick it to the curb. A few months later, find something else like a diet or an exercise program or money-making scheme, start again. And that's a way of setting up the fixed negative mindset that says, I can't do this.
Yeah. So the negative feedback loop, that's something interesting. So that is what you described, like when you try something and you don't finish it, and then it just continues in that way, like kind of like a bad habit that you're building of not finishing your goals.
Exactly. It is a bad habit. And it's really interesting because motivation is actually made up of one of the things that makes up is your expectancy. And that means, do you actually expect to achieve this goal? So often people who, and again, I keep using weight loss because it's an easy one to look at. People go, right, I'm going to lose 10 kilos. And they set it and they lose the first 2 kilos, and, it's all really good. And then they, there's that chocolate sundae that they want to eat rather than sticking to their goals. And that's because they're not working with their mind, because our mind is only short-term focused. Our mind is about instant gratification and the path of least resistance. And so when you set a goal that says, I need to lose weight, and it is, that's 6 months down the track that you're going to be where you want to be. So today, when there's the burger in front of you, or there's the barbecue, or there's the bottle of wine, or whatever it is, your mind will start getting into juicy justifications as to why, it doesn't matter. We'll just do that today. So unless you're actually working with your mind to be giving it short-term rewards that aren't the chocolate and the burgers and the things like that, then you're sabotaging yourself, because you're not actually really expecting to achieve that goal. And your willpower is going to keep you on track, but only for a certain period of time. And then suddenly that bar of chocolate will sneak up on you, or someone's birthday and the cake, and it happens to be your favorite whatever, and you're derailed.
Yeah, that's true. I know about all those little sneaky stories that you start to tell yourself when the motivation runs out, or when the temptation to change your goals or to do something that you said you wouldn't do. How do people get past that though? Like sometimes those excuses or those stories are like so convincing and tempting. You're like, no, I really do need to eat this chocolate bar. Like, I deserve this.
Yeah,
How do you
absolutely.
get past that?
I love it. Well, this is it, because this is what happens. You've got this long-term goal, and then suddenly you see something that you want, right? And that's an emotional response, and your emotions are going to win out every time. And so then all the juicy justifications, your brain joins in and starts bombarding you with all the rational reasons why you should allow yourself to do this thing, which in the back of your mind is not going to serve you. So what happens is, and this is where goal setting is so important, that you set a goal, but then you break it down into the mini goals. And so that you have got, for every step of the way, you have got these short points that you need to get to, and then you celebrate. Your mind is all about celebration. It wants the dopamine kick, which is, you know, and the serotonin kick that comes from a belly laugh or the sense of community, etc. So for you to, especially as an entrepreneur, see, entrepreneurs don't celebrate successes. They just go on to the next project. And that's really detrimental to you achieving your goals. And it puts you towards burnout, because it's about saying, right, when I get to this milestone, I want to, you know, set up my new website. And when I set up my new website, we're going to have a web Zoom party, and we're going to wear funny hats, and we're going to all get together. Whatever it is, it's a little bit of silly, but it gives your mind your serotonin boost. It just does absolute wonders for your whole psychology and your physiology. And this is where people don't realize just how important it is. But if you then say that everything is just mundane and we're not going to celebrate, we're just going to move on, then nothing's important. And therefore, why not go for the short-term gratification?
Yeah, that's super important. Celebrating those little wins, like telling yourself that you did a good job and like now's time to reward yourself for that work. I guess in some ways you can use that reward to motivate yourself to not eat the candy bar or to not take that short-term gratification. If you're capable of, what is it, like delaying that satisfaction until the end, you can use your reward as, or even that celebration as like a motivation to do something or to not do something. Like if you really want to have that after Zoom party, like after website party, when you've built your website, then you have to build the website. And so sometimes having that reward, for me at least, like I've noticed that if I want to get things done, I have to have like a specific reward that I get from it. And then I'm looking forward to that reward. Like I'm really working for the reward more than accomplishing the goal.
Absolutely. And the thing is that, you know, how do you move a mountain, you know, one shovel at a time? And so if you're looking at the whole thing, it's all too big. And that's where it just end up being kicked to the curb. But to work with your brain, it is about bombarding your brain, because we're run 95% of everything we do is a program. So from breathing, brushing your teeth, they're all just habits. And all your habits are successful, all of your habits. So whether it's sitting there in front of the TV watching Netflix, or whether it is going for a walk every day, your habits are successful. It's about which ones do you nurture? Which ones do you turn into your super highway, that when you end up, you come home, do you grab the glass of wine or do you go on the treadmill? You know, and so it's about nurturing those. That's where the willpower comes in, to make sure you are the person who does the stuff on a daily basis that just ends up getting you your goals. And you work towards, and so then putting celebration into that is a real big part of that, to keep you motivated, and it makes you want to do more again. You know, you see again the weight, you see the weight coming off, you see the clothes fitting you better, etc. It makes you want to do it more and more to get that particular dopamine hit, rather than the dopamine hit that comes from, I don't know, finishing watching 3 series of whatever it is, Game of Thrones, or I think The Crown is the latest and greatest at the moment. So that gives you a dopamine kick. However, how well is it serving you?
Yeah, that's interesting to talk about and to think about, the idea of nurturing the right habits. And I guess the opposite of that would mean starving the bad habits.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But it just, see, the idea is a lot of people go into strategies. Once again, it's like, right, I need to lose weight, I need to make money, and I'm just going to start doing stuff. But if you can engage your emotions to pull you towards where you want to be, then it's not about, I need to stop doing X bad habit. It's just about, I'm being pulled forward. I just want to do the good habit. And so that's what makes it easier. And so by using, and this is where people think these tools they're too easy, and so people don't use them. So things like a gratitude list. to be grateful for what you've got right now, to then pull more of it into your world, to have mantras to say, I am a person who gets things done. If you're always got a messy kitchen and your goal is to have a tidy kitchen at the end of the day, then I tidy my kitchen up after each meal. That's who I am. And so these little things, these mantras, affirmations, and then having your accountability buddy who maybe is taking you for a walk, and things like that. All these little things that all go together to help pull you forward and work with your brain to achieve your goals. Little tools.
Interesting little tools. So you teach these tools to your women to like help them accomplish their goals faster?
Absolutely. Because look, what my belief is, it's about being powerfully you. So it's about knowing, liking, and trusting yourself. So any strategies that people use are great once you know which ones work for you. So to know what your procrastination type is really important, because there are many different types of procrastination. And how does that come out and show up for you? You have your personal core drivers. So, is your driver about connection with other people? Is it about being safe in this world? Is it about getting ahead? So each person's got their own core drivers. So when and your limiting beliefs, that you can do certain things and you can't do others. So it's about knowing your strengths, leveraging those, and rather than looking at your perceived weaknesses, and then being able to pull yourself forward to do what you want with your genius zone, and to then smash your limiting beliefs, basically get out of your own way. Then you put all the strategies in. So the first thing to do is to know yourself. And most people are externally focused. When I get this goal, then I'm going to be feeling okay. Let's get you knowing, liking, and trusting yourself and feeling okay. And then let's go after the goal.
That makes so much sense. And you're right, like so many people focus on the strategy. They think there's just like they're one strategy away from being productive or from being motivated or for being successful. And you're right, it is a lot about that knowing, liking, and trusting yourself. I mean, I've heard that phrase so much used for business and for customers, like you need people to know, like, and trust you before they buy. But I think what you said is super important. Like you have to do that for yourself. If you want to be the best version of yourself, you have to start with yourself. You have to know, like, and trust yourself first. And then you'll be in the right frame of mind to attack your goals and to stay motivated and to actually finish things that you start.
Exactly, because then you know what strategies to use. Like we were talking about procrastination before, and there's different procrastination types. Like you've got the perfectionist, and so they're run by the idea that it has to be perfect before they even start. They're not going to launch anything until it's absolutely perfect. And of course, that in itself is a fallacy. Nothing is ever going to be perfect. And so there's strategies there, like the artificial deadline. So they give themselves an artificial deadline that this is their go live date, full stop. And therefore they launch whatever it is, they finish the product, the project, etc. You've got your dreamer. The dreamer is the person who doesn't actually want to work for anything. So they just want the goal to just end up in their lap. And so they don't plan, they don't put anything in place. So for them to actually have a real strict structure to be able to help them move forward is a great thing. You'd be very familiar with the thrill maker or the thrill seeker. And these are the people who actually say, oh, I work best under pressure. And they're actually addicted to that last minute pressure, but you don't get your best work done then. So it's about setting the milestones about let's get this part of the project done by here, here, and here. So knowing what your procrastination type is, and there's a few others. There's the worrier, the imposter, the defier. Why do I have to do it? And once you know what your particular procrastination type is, then you can put strategies in place.
Mm.
And and also like with goal setting, just to have lists, to-do lists. So many people make to-do lists and do nothing with them because some people are not list makers. Some people are actually mantras, which is just a single idea that's just going to pull them forward. And that's the best way for them to work. So when you know yourself and know how you function best, then you can get the strategies that are going to help you move forward.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. If you don't know who you are, then you don't know what's going to work for you. You don't know why something is working or not working. And it's just guessing, I guess. And you're just guessing at what will be the best thing for you. And you're not really thinking about it carefully and making, those thoughtful decisions.
No, and what ends up happening is another reason why people ditch their goals is because they take on someone else's goals. Oh, they're going to make $1 million. That sounds like fun. That's what I'll do. However, if you want to make $1 million this year, but you've got a young family who you are really connected to, and it's important, then you've got a values conflict. And so with that, that means that you're not going to achieve one or the other goal. You're either going to be miserable because you're trying to make both of them work. You're killing yourself trying to make $1 million, but yet you're trying to be there for the family. You're hating yourself. It's not working for you. You've got this conflict happening. So when you know yourself and know what's important to you, then you run your goals through that value system and you say, yeah, okay, do I actually need $1 million or will 500,000 do? And we'll make the million next year when my children go to school. So you're able to be happy because then you're meeting your goals on this side and you're able to have your top priorities fulfilled by being there for your family. So it's a win-win situation. But this is where it's really important to work out what your true aligned goals are initially before you start just going, I want this, and going for it.
Yeah. I was going to ask because I see some people who are so tied to their goals. Like I work for some clients who their goal is to like scale and grow to this certain size. And they have this idea in their mind, like they have to be at this size. They have to get to this level. Their business has to perform at this certain number or they're failing, basically. And so they're so tied to those goals and to those outcomes that they, obviously it stresses out their team, it stresses them out. There's a lot of pressure to hit those goals because they have to, like it's not something that's fun or even flexible. It's like, if I'm not at this revenue point, then what am I doing? Like I'm wasting my time. Everything's a waste of time if I'm not achieving my goals. What about the people that are like so tied to their goals that you can't talk them out of it? Like you can't, I don't know, like sometimes it's difficult for me when I see people who are like so connected to their goals and I kind of want to tell them like, look, you gotta realize like this might not happen. This might not be the right goal for you. This might be detrimental to your growth.
Yeah. Well, obviously, as a service provider, that's one thing that is not always possible. But the one thing that and this blows people's minds when I say this to them is give yourself permission to stop. Can you give yourself permission? And what generally happens is just that one sentence, or even saying you have permission to change your goals, it stops people in their tracks because it's almost, and then they actually say to me, that never occurred to me. Wow, thank you. You've just given me permission, which means that I can give myself permission. And it's just because they get so focused. And this is entrepreneurs, very much entrepreneurs. It's about do, but throw more stuff at it and get to this particular spot, then I'll be able to have the money, the freedom, the time, etc. And what ends up happening is most entrepreneurs then end up in what's known as a maintenance mode. They're so busy doing that they're just trying to keep their head above water. And this is why so many entrepreneurs are miserable and end up packing in their businesses within a few years because they're on absolute burnout. because their goals are not aligned. They've taken someone else's goal to be a success. You, in this industry, whatever industry it is, you have to scale, and everyone's got the criteria. You know, you need to be, I don't know, you need the cost of customer acquisition is $190, and if it's not $190, then what are you doing? And all this sort of stuff. And so they're tied to those figures without realizing what's going on for them or their team. And at some point, everyone has that moment of clarity where they suddenly go, I need to do it differently. And this is hopefully where they're able to then get the proper help, like with a business coach or something like that, to break that negative feedback loop and that self-sufficiency, to be able to then have a new experience and set things up, look at what's working, look at what their strengths are, what their company strengths are, and then do it differently.
Yeah, I think this is a good time to bring in that business coaching aspect of it. You know, sometimes it's so hard for you to see what you're failing in. For me, I know that I'm always like, it's easy for me to see what other people need to work on, what other people need to fix in their business or in their work. But it's so hard for me to see that for myself. And I feel like I avoided for a long time hiring a coach or a mentor, because I did it once in the past and it didn't work out. And I kind of just thought like, well, it's not for me. It's not going to work. It didn't get what I wanted. But I do feel like in times like this, when you are stuck or when you are struggling to hit your goals, having that person who can help you out is so valuable. And I've kind of changed my opinion on coaches, because for a while I used to think that you don't really need a coach. You can figure it out. You can find the information online. You can hustle until you figure it out, or, you know, just go and do it. And then the experience will be more valuable than any coach. That was kind of my opinion of it. But what's your opinion? Because you're a coach, you help people all the time, and you must have this argument with people saying like, you know, can't I just do it on my own? Do I really need a coach? What do you think about that?
Well, it's what ends up happening is this. You've got your zones. So we all know about our comfort zone, and that is, whether it's comfortable or uncomfortable, it's the zone that we know. We know what to expect there. Then you've got the slow growth zone, and the slow growth zone is where you'll get people that go on YouTube. Now, YouTube is all about the what. This is, you know, what you need to do, what you need to do, what you need to do, but not the how. So a lot of time is spent just trying to glean this information. And they'll be reading books. There's, you know, all these different things. So that's the slow growth zone. And what you're doing is, though, you're using your own mental processing that you've grown up with your whole life to try to find the information. So there's new information coming in, but it's very slow. Then there is what we call the zone of courage. Now, the zone of courage, which is the optimal one, is where you've got someone who is holding you by the hand and is taking you through. So whether it is, you know, there's a lot of group coaching programs online where you're learning as a group and with questions and answers, etc., bringing you through on whatever topic you've got. So there is that instant feedback, there's that instant learning, there's that what about this and the scenarios. So this is the optimal way to move forward quickly, have some aha moments. You're learning from people in the group, your tribe, etc., and you're having that growth. And also in there, when you go for the one-on-one coaching and the business coaching and the personalized coaching, that's a real opportunity to get rid of those limiting beliefs. We've all got these defining moments, those 10 to 12 moments in our lives that can tell us that we are awesome and that we can do something, or that we are no good. And we bring out those moments every time you get your button pushed and you react. That's because one of your defining moments has been pressed and you feel less than because someone, I don't know, didn't pass you the bottle of wine at dinner, and it takes you back to when you were 4 years old and you weren't given the toy that you wanted. And whilst that sounds silly, it's real. And we play that story. We talk about a story we tell people over and over and over again. So a coach, whether it's a business coach, whether it is a life coach, can help you get rid of those blockages that you've got in the way of you moving yourself forward, because you've only got the programs that you've currently got in your mind until you change the programs. So you do it either slowly, or you can do it with the zone of courage. And then, of course, there's a zone of terror. Now, the zone of terror is where, and this is where people can put themselves on burnout. And let's say, using the online entrepreneur again, is when suddenly you're thrown in and you've got 2 or 3 high-tech programs that you need to learn. You know, a lot of people would have gone through this with COVID, with trying to get online. And suddenly they take their offline business and they're in that zone of terror. With trying to pivot, etc. And people did really, really well because it was for short term. But a lot of people live in that zone of terror for a long period of time, where you literally it's over. You're overstraining. And that's where, again, it's ideal to get yourself a coach, get yourself a consultant, do something to take the pressure off, because we can't be experts at everything. And why would you want to be?
Yeah, it's foolish to expect yourself to have all the answers to all the problems. I mean, I know that people say sometimes like the answers that you need are already inside of you, but sometimes you need someone to help you ask the questions, like ask the right questions to get the right answers out of you. And if you don't have that person, if you're just asking yourself those questions, then you might miss so much that someone else could help you with. Like, I know when I started working with a coach, she told me, you need to be a lot more visible in your business. Like, you're hiding behind all this other stuff that you're doing. You're putting out lots of great content, but you're not visible. Like, you're not putting your face out there. You're not putting your name out there. You're not being as visible as you can be because you're afraid. And she was 100% right. Like, I do prefer to be like on the back end of things and behind the scenes. And I hate being the one that's like on the front of the website or, you know, talking directly to people and giving my advice. But I think it's something that, like you said, is a huge block that I need to get rid of. And I wouldn't have found that, and I wouldn't have really pushed through it without a coach. Like, I knew in a way that I was kind of holding myself back in this way. But when you have someone who says it straight to your face and like holds you accountable and is like watching you every week to see if you actually are going to take courage and like act on that, that is super powerful. I think that is where I'm getting the most value out of working with a coach, that accountability and just the honesty that, you know, I can lie to myself all I want and say like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm being plenty visible. But it's so much harder to like lie to someone else who really sees, and they've seen lots of other businesses, they've seen all of these excuses before. It's nothing new to them, and they can kind of call you out on the places where you're not really showing up fully for yourself and for your business and for your community. That I feel like is really helpful, because I used to think that a coach was just there to give you good advice and to tell you what to do. But I've started to see like a coach is really there to hold up that mirror to you and like to make you see all that stuff that you don't want to see, and then to help you get through it, to help you work through it and get to a better place.
Yeah, absolutely. And accountability and support. I mean, it's one of the things that anytime I ask any of my people, what is it that you are wanting? It is accountability and support, accountability and support. So it's clarity and focus, because we've got so much information coming down the tube at all times, and there's that fear of missing out, which drives a lot of people and is reducing everyone's satisfaction with life. And so with that, it's basically, I've just lost my train of thought then. I was just going on and talking about FOMO, and I was just about to go off on that track. So, the accountability support. So it's accountability support, clarity, focus, and direction. Because with the fear of missing out, it just clutters people's minds, it clouds everything, and means that people are not able to then achieve what they want to achieve because they're afraid of missing out. So it ends up being, you know, there's two sort of forces pulling against each other. But accountability and support with any of the entrepreneurs that I work with is huge. And often I have a 30-minute check-in with them once a week. 30 minutes, right? What are you doing? What have you achieved? What's next? Okay, let's look at that. Where are you blocked? Okay, great, move on.
Yeah. That weekly accountability is so important. I saw that when I was coaching business owners with their Facebook ads. When I was working with you also, we would meet once a week to talk about the ads. And I know that so many people just having that like weekly call, knowing that you have to face someone every week and tell them your progress updates, that like gets most people to work much better than the fact that like they're spending a lot of money on this coach also.
Yeah, no, I think it was always the hour before I would meet with you. It's like quickly, what was on the list? Goodness, let's get it done. So yeah, no, it is really good. And again, the same with any goals. If you know when people are doing exercise, etc., they'll let themselves down. People find their own time to be flexible. However, they don't like letting other people down. And so this is where having some sort of an accountability tribe, a goals group, an accountability coach, etc., is really, really beneficial to move you forward, because you'll show up for that walk with someone when because you don't want to let them down, rather than looking at your own health. So again, it's one of those mind tricks that you put those in place, and it makes sure that you keep moving forward. It's all about beating the brain.
Yeah, that's so interesting. You're right. You can beat the brain in certain ways. I like what you said, like some people won't show up for themselves, but they'll show up for other people. Like they don't want to let other people down. They're okay with letting themselves down in private because nobody sees that. Nobody's going to tell them anything about it. But to let someone else down is revealing of your character, and people will go through a lot of work to not let those people down so they don't feel like a failure in front of other people. It's a weird thing, but it can be useful in a way if you use it right.
Yeah, and that's like any personal development can either be something to pull you forward or a stick to beat yourself with. So it's just about taking the tools and making sure that they work for you. So again, it's about knowing, liking, and trusting yourself, and then getting whatever strategies and support you need that's personal to you to be able to pull you forward.
That's amazing. I love that. What can someone do today? Like obviously they need to work on knowing, liking, and trusting themselves, but like what's a first step that they can do to master that process?
Look, there's a number of things, and I talk about peeling back the layers of the onion. It's about starting to get interested in yourself. And so putting aside 15 minutes a day for reflection. So if you go outside, have a cup of tea, sit in nature, and just check in with yourself. What's going on with me today? How am I feeling? Most people only have about 5 or 6 words to describe their emotions. There's over 2,000 words to describe emotions. So when you can start knowing what's going on with you, that is, step one. Also, at the end of every day, just again, at the end of work, check in with yourself. How did I do? Did I do good? What did I do well? What could I improve on? And then when you start the day in the morning, just set your intention for the day. These are really small things, but it's about you becoming more inwardly focused and starting to be run by your internal compass rather than your external compass. Also, there's a whole heap of quizzes online, and there's a few on my website as well. What's your procrastination type? So just to know that, and then to know, okay, my procrastination type is actually this. So these are some strategies that I can use. So these different things, you just start, am I a goal ditcher, a goal chaser, or what is it? There's a goal ditcher, a goal chaser, or a goal getter. And so this is where your focus is towards goals. Once you know that, whether, you're focused on, I have to have this, or I need to do this, then again, it's another thing that you can tick off. That is how I approach goals. What can I put into place? So again, peel back the layers of the onion, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, but you're going to get there as long as your interest is in knowing yourself.
I love that. And I'll put a link to your quiz in the show notes so people can find out their procrastination type. I love how you've come up with these procrastination types, these goal setter types, and the different zones. It sounds like you have like your whole world of procrastination and goal getting like mapped out. You've analyzed all the different types of procrastinators and all the weaknesses and all the terrible things, and like have come up with a really cool system. I love it.
Yeah, well, that's where, as I said, so when I mentioned before about I did the 5-day goal getter challenge, which everybody loved. And the feedback that I got from that was what was missing was the ongoing accountability and support. So, and that looks at the mindset, personal mastery, and then the tools and the strategies to actually get aligned goals and then actually achieve the goals. So most people are great at setting goals, and not many people are great at finishing them because they don't have those really easy things in place, the milestones and the celebrations to work with their brain. So I ended up turning that into a 5-week program, which is now, I run it at the end of the year and then at the beginning of the year, to make sure that people have actually got these aligned goals that are being set. And we're coming at it from every angle to make sure that you've got there's one-on-one coaching to get rid of those limiting beliefs. You've got the group coaching to make sure that you're learning off other people. And also this is an implementation session. Because what we find today is there's so much, with the YouTube and Insta stories and all this sort of, there's so much information out there, but where's the implementation? And so this is this actually is an implementation program. And so we're working through it together. So when we get online, a little bit of learning, and then let's do it, get it set up, get it embedded, get your habits in place, and let's, start kicking goals. So,
Yeah, I love that. I think that's how you got to do it. You just got to attack it and stay at it, find the right community of people who are also doing the same thing, and get motivation and inspiration from them, like show up for them. And yeah, just change those habits. For me, it was all about changing my habits. I had a habit of starting things and not finishing them. I would get so excited about a new project idea and I would work on it really hard, and then I would hit a roadblock, or I would realize how difficult it actually was, and I would kind of lose the motivation and I would stop doing it and it would fall off and I would hate myself for falling off. And yeah, I was in that negative feedback loop for a while. And so I definitely relate with everything that you're saying. And I think it's so awesome that you're putting out this knowledge and this content and this information for people, because everybody that I know has problems with procrastination. I don't know anybody who's like perfect at doing all of their stuff all the time. Like, I've gotten better at it. I push myself really hard for it, but I always have those moments of like, what are you calling it? Juicy justifications.
Absolutely. But the interesting thing is that when it comes to procrastination, there's certain things that it's good to procrastinate about. So Brian Tracy talks about when you set your priorities, you've got your A, B's and C's. I found out years ago that I would never get to my C's. And I believe it might be him who actually says, those are the ones that you procrastinate about. And if you're procrastinating about your C level that often, then maybe these are the ones that you don't need to do. So those are great ones to procrastinate about, and then just kick them to the curb because they're not relevant. Whereas your A priorities and your B priorities are the relevant ones. And so you can get creative procrastination.
I feel like there's a creative way to do everything. Like, your mind can come up with creative ways to help you or to hold you back in all sorts of different ways. The mind is super fascinating, and just like the intricacies of how it works and how you can trick it and how you can kind of like manipulate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, because the key to you've only got control over, your conscious mind controls 5% of what you do. So it's about harnessing that and making sure that you are using it to the best of its ability. So people talk about the law of attraction, etc. And so with the law of attraction, it is about it's repetition. That's how we learn, is by, you learn by hypnosis up until the age of 4. So you're just absorbing everything people are saying. So be warned around your children. And then you've got, when you are older, then it is all about repetition. So that's why affirmations are brilliant, mantras are brilliant, visualizations are brilliant. Whatever you focus on grows bigger. Whatever you focus on, you will achieve. So if you're focused on, I don't want to be poor, you're going to be poor. If you focus on abundance, then abundance is going to come into your world. So that 5%, your conscious mind, is very powerful if you channel it. Get clear, and then your mind will just bring whatever you're really focusing on into your world. But it's about getting clear and focused.
Yes, clarity is power. That's a saying from Marie Forleo. I can't take credit for it, but I agree. Like clarity and focus are essential to accomplishing anything. If people don't have those two things, then, you know, you could be working super hard, but you could be working on the wrong things. You could be working towards the wrong goals. Getting that clarity and that focus on what you really want, and then setting a goal, breaking it into smaller goals, setting rewards for your goals, celebrating your success. It's all part of this like game that we're playing with ourselves to try to be more productive and to be like healthier and more successful.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the thing is that when it comes to tasks, they're either taking you towards your goals and moving the needles, or they are simply distractions. And often we can't tell the difference because we don't have our priorities set. We're not clear. We just literally leave work at the end of the day, and then, you know, often everything is just left on the desk, and then the next morning people just come back and just start again. So there is no focus. There's just the churn. And just like the hamster on the wheel.
Yeah, it's surprising how much you can get done if you're focused and you're clear and you have the discipline to make yourself sit down and do it. Like I always used to think there was never enough time in a day for everything that I needed to do. But once I, you know, rewired my mindset around that, and I like eliminated all the distractions and the unnecessary stuff that I was just filling my time with, I realized like there's actually so much time in a day. There's, you know, enough time for everything if you're focused and you're clear and you're determined to do it. Nowadays, I'm surprised at how much I'm able to get done. And it's, yeah, it's really life-changing in order, you know, once you figure out how to motivate yourself, how to keep yourself on track with your goals. The human mind is so powerful and so amazing that I wish we all learned how to use it properly to our advantage.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting actually, because there's Laura Vanderkam, who is all about sort of priority management and time management, and she did a survey of 1,001 executive women, and what she found was that with one lady that she had no time in her day for self-care, etc. She was always busy. However, then one day her water heater broke and it was a mess. It spilt water everywhere, etc. And so then she had to get the cleaners in, get it fixed, etc. And that took her 7 hours in her busy week. And did she find the time? Absolutely, because it was a priority. So if you try and find the time, you may not find any. But if you make it a priority, then it's going to get done. So it's about turning things, you know, you make time for what's important, for the rest you make excuses. And so it's about finding out what your priorities are and then turning them into your water heater so that it has to get done. And in that way, you're going to pull yourself forward rather than just trying to stick things in your diary and trying to make them important. They either are or they're not.
Yeah, urgency is so valuable there, you know, like when you have a problem like a water heater breaking, that's an urgent problem that you have to fix. That's like there's a timeliness to it that forces you to move. And with so many of our goals, there's no urgency around it other than the urgency that we give, you know, like let's say I want to build my website. There's not necessarily an urgency that I have to do this right away, or I'm not going to have water this evening, or I'm not going to have electricity. So creating that urgency, finding what's really urgent and focusing on that, I found has been really valuable for me. Like just eliminating everything that's not urgent and not putting tasks on my list that are not urgent, and just doing the stuff that I feel that urgency that is pulling me towards, like, I have to do this. If I don't do it now, I'm going to be late. Something's going to happen to me in the future. Like, I have to do it now. I create that kind of urgency with myself to force myself to do things that I know I could put off for longer if I wanted to.
Yeah, yeah. And that's all about, again, you focus on your priority and you eat your frogs, as I think Stephen Covey talks about that. And, eat your frog first thing in the morning. What's the big thing that you need to get out of the way? And then the rest of it is like the gravel. So you've got your big rocks or your frog, and then you've got the gravel that will just fit in around there. The phone calls that need to be returned, the emails and all this sort of stuff will fit in and around those big rocks. But to move the needle forward in any area of your life is then actually about having making sure that you are getting those done and making them the priority. So because otherwise, if you don't, then they do become the urgent fires that you're trying to put out.
Yeah. Okay. I want to ask you a little bit, like, just a completely different tangent. I want to switch away from all of our great procrastination and business talk. And in this note you mentioned that your genius zone is creating costumes for your 4-year-old son. I was like, I have to talk to you about that. What? Your genius zone is creating costumes?
Yeah, well, look, everyone's got a genius zone, and the people will say to you, oh my God, how do you do that? And you go, doesn't everybody do that? So for me, I love costume parties. I've got, my wardrobe is full of costumes, and my child's wardrobe is full of costumes. I love playing dress ups. And when my child was born, I started going to these mummy events, and they were always themed. So, and the first one was a French theme. So I actually got a piece of material and made him a beret, and he had this dummy that had a moustache on it, and he had a stripy suit. So I took him to that one. And then every week after that, I was just, whatever the theme was, I started making a costume. And for me, I literally come up with the idea. I find stuff around the house. I cut up old clothes. I just stitch it, glue it, whatever together, and just have all these costumes. So I've got these little things lying around the house that are, stars. I've got him as a star. I've got him as a dragon. Many, many outfits. And what's really funny is everyone keeps coming to me and saying, oh, why don't you sell these? And I would love to, but I think China's kind of cornered the market on that. You can get a costume for like $5 at Spotlight. So whilst it's my genius zone, I don't think it's going to do anything for me. But it is lots of fun. I've got all the makeup, everything. So people are actually coming and starting to borrow off me every time they go to a party. They ring me up and just say, "Have you got an outfit?"
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. You're the costume queen now.
I'm the costume queen.
I love it that you have such a creative zone of genius and that you take time to do that often. And that's such a nice way to add some fun into your life and into your son's life. I think having a zone of genius or just a hobby that is fun that you don't turn into work is so important, because like you do enough in work. Not every hobby needs to be made into a business. Sometimes they're just meant to be enjoyed.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I'm also a diver. So that's my, I go there and just go and play with the fish. So that's also another thing that I absolutely love doing. That's my stress relief and just to disappear from the world. It's fantastic.
Oh, I love diving. Do you free dive or do you scuba dive?
Scuba.
Oh.
Yes. I go and just hang out on the bottom with the fish, have conversations in my mind.
That is the best. I love doing that too. I learned to free dive in Bali, and they have some of the best just like reefs there. You can walk off the beach and just go down and see the fish. It's such a peaceful world down there to be with the fish. I don't know, it sounds funny. Yeah. It's so peaceful to be with the fish. They're just swimming casually, no problems in life. I love it too. It's just like a whole world in our world.
Yeah, it is. And I love the fact you've got the sergeant major fish. They'll come over and they'll start banging into the front of your mask, basically. And I start having conversations with them because they're going, what are you doing here? Get out of my patch. Why are you here? And I'm just going, oh, well, I'm just coming along to say hello. But yeah, that's just my craziness.
Oh, I love that. I think everybody needs a little craziness in life. It just makes it fun. I mean, if you're not a little bit crazy, you're probably not doing it right.
Exactly. I love it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge and making this time. I think this has been so valuable, even just for me. I know a lot of this about procrastination and getting out of my way, but it's just so helpful to hear it and to have someone like break it down for you into such a simple way. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. And I'll put all the links to your website, your social media, all your stuff so people can check it out further, get to know you a little bit more, because I think this topic is something that, I could talk about forever, but I definitely want to have more conversations about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, look, thank you so much for asking me to come and chat to you. All the work that I've done with you, and we were talking about mentoring and things like that. The support that you've given me with my business has been absolutely amazing. With the coaching in the areas of getting online and getting things happening, etc. So yeah, and it's great to then be able to get out there and share my message with people and help people get out of their own way so they can be powerfully themselves. It's fantastic. So thank you for asking me.
Yeah, you're welcome. I love building this positive feedback loop. We're all just helping each other. I think it's so powerful.
Yeah, it's important. Very important. Yeah.